Rationality tells you never to pitch yourself directly against your wife. She was there. She's here. But life isn't about rationality. So here I find myself speaking very soon after my wife herself. So that is Irrationally Rational for you. That's the title of the book. All right. Let me give you an example. Supposing you and me, we are both going to the airport to catch a flight. I am going to Bombay. You are going to Delhi after the fest is over, end of the day. Scheduled flight time is 8 o'clock for both of us. Though you are going to Delhi, I am going to Bombay. But since we are going to the same airport, we share a cab. And on the way, Bangalore has only one road that leads to the airport. If there's an accident on the way, you are stuck. And supposing a very rare kind of accident happens, and we are stuck for 4 hours on the road because there's no turning back, there are a million cars behind you. So we have to keep inching forward all the time, and at 12 o'clock in the night, we both reach the airport. I go to my Bombay counter and they say, sorry sir, your flight left on the dot at 8 o'clock. Just too bad. Shit happens. You are told, oh my God, what a pity. Your flight was delayed by 3 hours and 55 minutes. The captain just closed the door and you missed it. Who feels worse? Obviously. But pure economics or economists will tell you that rationally speaking, your regret level should be the same. Both of us have lost our ticket. Both of us have to spend an extra night in Bangalore. Both of us have to pay for the return cab and again back to the airport next day. Economics is all identical, but one of us is left feeling like a heap of crap much more than the other. Now you see, which of the two feelings would you say is rational? 9 out of 10 will say that the second person feels terrible. But rationality tells you that you should feel equally terrible. But we don't feel equally terrible. Or let me give you another example. You bought a lottery ticket. Are you seriously expecting to win the lottery? No. You pay 50 bucks. The winning prize is 50 lakhs. There are over 1 million tickets. You don't seriously expect to win the lottery, right? So you buy a lottery. And I also buy a lottery. I, of course, don't win it. Gone. You, of the 7 digits on the lottery ticket, 6 digits are identical to the winning ticket. Only 1 digit varies. Who feels worse? But the investment in the lottery ticket was the same, 50 rupees. The lottery outcome was the same. The lottery probability was the same. So what is different economically? And neither of us won it anyway, and nor were we expecting to win it anyway. And yet one feels much worse than the other. Now you see the rationality and the irrationality angle? Right? Or let me tell you, just one more example. Supposing you are sitting on a beach. It's a hot day, sultry. You feel like having a Coke. Okay? Your friend is just going to walk to the road, main road, which is about 200 meters away. And he tells you, look, there is an air-conditioned restaurant over there. Okay? How much are you willing to pay for a diet, for a Coke that you're looking at? So I'll buy for you and bring it, but what is the maximum you're willing to pay? What is the amount you're likely to quote? He tells you it's a upmarket, fancy, air-conditioned restaurant. And he's asking you, you want a Coke? I'll get you a Coke, but what is the maximum I should pay on your behalf? Because you are ultimately going to foot the bill. How much will you quote? Give me a number. about 200. Somebody may say 150. Somebody may say 100. Correct? Is that fair? But supposing your friend tells you, there is a road, I am going there, but वहाँ एक छोटा सा ठेला वाला है, a little shack fellow, you know. He just keeps an ice box and puts some Coke cans in it. But the can is the same, no matter whether you buy it from a restaurant or from a shack. Hygiene is irrelevant because it's a sealed can and you don't have it on the beach anyway. So he says, I'm going to this shack. How much are you willing to pay for the can? What will you say? Much lesser. Now the product is the same. Demand supply is the same. You want it. You are thirsty. Demands that all our life we read about demand supply in classical economics, right? So demand supply is the same, but the price that one is willing to pay is different. So rationality tells us one thing, but the actual behavior seems to be something else. So you're beginning to get a hang of what do we mean by rationality and irrationality. The book is Irrationally Rational. 50 Nobel laureates script the story of behavioral economics. So the book essentially speaks about how from the classical economics, which assumed that people behave in a certain way, it assumed that price elasticity of demand works like this, that people will be willing to pay a lesser price if there is great competition and so forth. Product, demand, supply, price, cost, this is all that was the material of which classical economics was made of. The fact that you were angry or you were sad or that you were happy or you were greedy at a point in time was all irrelevant. That you are a very friendly person or you are not a friendly person. You are buying from an enemy versus buying from a friend. None of that mattered. All that mattered was demand, supply, cost, price, and so forth. But then came these 10 Nobel laureates. You can scan the 10 Nobel laureates there. Starts with Herbert Simon, goes on to Gary Becker, goes on to Akerlof, and so forth. Then, of course, Kahneman. Then, of course, Thaler, Ostrom, Williamson. So there are 10 Nobel laureates who are covered and it covers them systematically how they entered the scene and started changing the understanding of economics. In the early days of economics, they used to look down upon psychologists. How can you combine psychology, which is a social science, with economics, which is pure mathematical science, you know? So it was very uppity feeling among the classical economists not to include psychology. It was contamination of economics if you talked about psychology being mixed with economics. But then, and what was worse, the classical economists said people are supposed to behave that way and theorized the entire economics accordingly. And if you didn't behave the way they were postulating, then you were not a subject of their study. You understand? In other words, your behavior was ascribed to you by the economists. But slowly, from Herbert Simon onwards, people started questioning that, hey, hang on. Whom is this economics meant for? Real people? And ultimately, what is economics supposed to do? Help people take better decisions? Then is it not important to question how do people in reality take decisions? I gave you 3 examples. And you figured that level of regrets are same. The prices you may be willing to pay could be different and so forth. If that is how real people take decisions, then who are the economists to say you must behave in a certain way? People behave the way they do. And you have to take that into cognizance in describing the decision-making process of people, right? That is where the behavioral economics came in. You see, the conventional understanding of economists was that human beings are rational. That rationality had a certain definition. Just to say rational doesn't mean much. Rational would mean I prefer more money to less money. Risk level remaining the same, I will want higher return. Return level remaining the same, I'll take lower risk. For every additional unit of risk, I will want greater compensation and so forth. Marginal utility and so on, which you read in your classical economics. Then some people came along and did some experiments with rats in the laboratories. For example, rats are given money in the form of, there are two levers in a cage. If the rat is trained to click one of them, they get some water. 3 clicks, you'll get so much of water. 2 clicks, you'll get so much of food. So now the rat is trained over a period of time to use the number of clicks to get either food or water. Then they start changing the amount of money that the rat has. It's allowed up to 20 clicks for water and another 15 clicks, let us say, for food. The rat learns very soon how to maximize its satisfaction, which is called utility maximization in economics, right? So the rat learns how many clicks to use where to have an optimal quantity of food and water, which means it's maximizing its utility by using its money judiciously. So then someone turned around and said, hey, if rats are rational, surely human beings must be rational. And that is how that rationality got very firmly entrenched in the field of economics. Now you may say, are human beings like rats? But then most of the biological experiments are also carried on rats before they are brought to you, either in the form of cosmetics or medication or whatever it may be. So this book essentially is all about how economics was brought out of boredom and made real. How it was brought out of pure conceptualization and made real through real life experimentation. And that is the entire journey that this book captures. Now, increasingly, it's becoming so relevant that schools are beginning to introduce behavioral economics in class 10 onwards. All right? Because the future will increasingly talk more and more about behavioral economics than neoclassical economics, as at least my generation learned. I don't know what your generation today learns in the name of economics, if it's still the same production functions and the price and the demand elasticity of demand and dy by dx and so forth, or if it's changing, I do not know. But it's time it changed. It's time you also started learning more about behavioral economics. What this book does is, instead of your having to read 30 books, it puts everything in one place to get a fair idea. Then you may figure out who interests you more, which work interests you more, and you go further deeper into that. I think this much is enough for my introductory remarks. I'll leave it to Ruhail now to take it forward. Ruhail, all yours. Thank you.